Hi, this is Catherine from wiseoldowl.slt.com. This week's blog is continuing the theme of visual support, only this time it's not to help the general environment for a child, it's actually specifically to help them with their speech sounds. This week I was seeing a little girl who had difficulty with her articulation, and she was really struggling to understand which sound she should use when. I instantly used something called cued articulation, and immediately everything just fell into place for her. And cued articulation is just really another form of visual support for a child. It was devised by Jane Passy, I think back in the 70s, and I've been a big fan of it. I use it instinctively. Sometimes I don't even realise I'm doing it, and then nursery practitioners might then ask, what's that you're doing? So when we're looking at speech sounds as speech and language therapists, there are three things that we're generally looking at with each sound. The first one is whether or not the sound is voiced or voiceless, and that means, is the sound a quiet or a loud sound? So if it's a voiced sound, a loud sound, the vocal folds would be vibrating, zzz. And if it was a quiet sound, a voiceless sound, the vocal folds wouldn't be vibrating. So just do that now. Put your fingers on your throat. Zzz, zzz. You'll notice that one of them, the vocal folds are working, vibrating, and the other, they're not. Zzz. It's a voiceless sound. The next thing that speech and language therapists are looking at is the manner of the sound. That means, is it a short sound or a long sound? For example, is there a build-up of air pressure behind the lips for p? That's a stop or a short sound. Sometimes we call it a plosive. If it's a longer sound, that means there's friction of the air where the sound is being articulated. So for example, with f or s, those sounds are fricatives, they're long sounds. The last thing that we're looking at as speech and language therapists is the place of articulation, and I've just mentioned that before. Is it with the lips, p, or is it at the back of the mouth with the back of the tongue, k, or is it the front of the mouth with the tip of the tongue, t? So you can see with these three things that we're thinking about as speech and language therapists, it can get quite complicated if you're a child that has difficulty with sounds, and this is where cued articulation helps. So it really just helps to show the child more about the sound, rather than if you're just saying t, k, it's difficult for them to see what's going on in your mouth, but if you're using your hands, that will help. So voice is represented by fingers. If it's a quiet sound, it's one finger, and if it's a voiceless, if it's a noisy voiced sound, it's your two fingers. So t would be one finger, t, and d would be two fingers, d. The manner of the sound is indicated by either a short movement or a longer movement with your fingers, and then the place is exactly that, where you're going to put your fingers to indicate the sound. So for example, t is said at the front of the mouth, so your finger comes to the side of your mouth here, t, and k is said at the back of the mouth, so we use a crooked finger with crooked finger and just pop that under our chin at the back of our mouth there, k, to indicate that. Now, when I was working with a child this week, she was finding it difficult to know when to use t and k, and particularly when a word has the same sound, this has both sounds in the word. So for example, with take, she was saying Tate, she was saying cake, she was saying Kate. She didn't quite know how to use those sounds, but as soon as I used cued articulation, take, she immediately was cued into being able to say those sounds more effectively. So I wonder if you've used cued articulation with any of your children in your settings before. Maybe a speech and language therapist has come in and recommended. I'm going to post the link to Jane Passy's book. It's a really good resource to have, and obviously you'll be able to find these gestures, the cued articulation, on the internet as well. Let me know how it goes, and if you want more information, or if you have any questions about any aspects of speech and language development, just drop me an email by return of this email, and I'll be able to answer your questions, obviously in a generic way if I don't know the specific child. Also, don't forget to sign up to receive these blogs straight into your inbox so that you don't miss them, because you won't always see these posts on Facebook. I hope you've enjoyed today's blog and enjoy the rest of the first week back of term.